would be like losing a limb or losing an arm. I would feel like a cripple if I didn't play the guitar.
Mick Taylor wasn't really a stone at all, but...
And of course he deteriorated because he started to get into drugs and all that sort of shit.
I thought, my God, this is, this is the high life. This is wonderful. I slowly became addicted to heroin. There was not really any time for self-doubt. Or second guessing. We were just going on instinct and doing what we wanted. We were almost like a law unto ourselves.
Jagger said he was very, very disappointed by it. I think it really shocked the band.
Let that be a warning to you.
I just saw it as a great opportunity to make some money and have some fun.
It's not one of those. All the drugs in me.
The junk was there to help me do the music.
It just becomes disorganized. We've got some recording engineers strung out on heroin, you know, because they all want to be strung out on heroin. Hedonism was very much on the rise. It was the hedonistic period.
What is a woman? Someone that's not settled. Like a pirate, gypsy.
Were there any rules on that tour?
Rules? No, there's no rules on any of them.
Hi, bud. You know who he is?
I do. You want to hear? He's one of those hippie long hairs, one of those hippie radicals.
There was a letter from the US State Department basically saying that if there was any kind of fallout, we could be in trouble.
You and your music are an evil influence. That must be a challenge that you would take seriously.
I don't take it seriously anymore. I think we've won, you know.
The whole thing to me was becoming jaded and decadent, and they seem to have lost their direction.
Mick Taylor said to me then, I'm thinking of leaving.
I don't want to do this anymore. It really wasn't a big deal to me, leaving the Stones.
I had no idea why he left the band. It was the stupidest idea I ever heard.
A lot of people think I'm crazy for leaving.
They had to go and almost implode in a way.
They were running away from England.
Why did they, so they literally got booted out.
What year was it? 72?
I know the folklore, obviously.
The sense of being, you can't go home. You can't go home. And I think this music reflects that.
This will be a popular English rock and roll story.
That whole period was incredibly creative for all of us.
Mick Taylor, a name forever linked to the golden age of the Rolling Stones, was a true musical talent whose brilliance truly shone during his time with the band. His smooth guitar style and heartfelt improvisations added a fresh, dynamic layer to their sound. Taylor's skills are slightly more subdued on the stunning album Exile on Main Street, recorded at Nelcote, the villa Keith Richards leased during the band's self-imposed tax exile on the French Riviera.
There was a feeling that you're being edged out of your own country. And the British government was scared by the number of fans that we had, I suppose. You know, they couldn't ignore that we were forced to be reckoned with. And sometime in the end of the year, we had to make the decision. It was like, well, we all wanted to keep going, right? So let's just move. I mean, We're not sort of rooted in England. We've been around the world half the time. Anyway,
we were supposed to live this life, you know, limousines you had to have, and you had to have this, that, and the other. And the money just flew, you know, so you were always in debt. None of us had paid tax. We thought we had. We thought that had been dealt with. And it hadn't. Tax under the Labour government, Wilson, was 93%. If you earned £1 million, which we didn't, you'd end up with 70 grand. So it was impossible to earn enough money to pay back the inland revenue and stay here in England.
In those days, if a band was big in England and then left England, that was the end of them. You didn't like them anymore. It's curtains, you know. And then when you leave for tax reasons, it's really not very cool. I had to get out of the country to pay the tax incurred for me. That's why I had to leave. Let that be a warning to you.
I just moved to France and I used to have to drive like a 6.5, 7 hour drive from where I live on these little roads. I couldn't do it every night, you know, play and go home. So I lived with Keith.
Well, I ended up there because that's where everybody else went. My boys I play rock and roll with left the country. We were invited to go, and we went.
I joined the Stones in May or June of '69, and so I hadn't earned enough money or done enough work on that level to have any kind of tax problems. But one of my most vivid memories is being flown there in our own private jet. I thought, my God, this is, this is the high life. This is wonderful.
we couldn't find a studio in the south of France. So eventually we sort of rummaged, and I said, I've got an enormous basement. I'd love to live on the factory, you know, it saves going to the studio. It's great, just go downstairs.
Now we are.
Mick Taylor's contributions to the Rolling Stones Exile on Main Street often get overshadowed by the album's legendary status and the band's iconic image. But his guitar work is a key part of what makes this album such a lasting masterpiece.
That whole period was incredibly intense because it was a new beginning for the band, and once we picked up our guitars, we were in our own world.
After stepping in for the late Brian Jones, Taylor brought a fresh, bluesy vibe to the band. His playing style blended perfectly with the Stones' gritty and energetic sound. On Exile, his guitar shines on tracks like Ventilator Blues and Tumbling Dice, where his slide guitar adds a raw, soulful edge. And Casino Boogie showcase his technical brilliance. While his subtle fills and rhythm work help anchor many of the album's tracks. More than just technical skill, Taylor infused his playing with deep emotion. His guitar lines often mirror the album's themes of exile, longing, and indulgence. On ballads like Sweet Virginia, and All Down the Line, his sensitive touch adds a layer of vulnerability to the Stones' music. It was during the recording of this album that Taylor became hooked on heroin.
Drugs, because I slowly became addicted to heroin.
Nelcote rapidly became a center for 24-hour hedonism and chaos.
There was a troglodyte existence down there at 9, 10 at night until 7 or 8 in the morning. You know. The idea of playing a note before the sun went down is ludicrous. And I mean, it's like Dracula time.
My kind of structure is a kind of loose structure, but when you have no structure, it's really bad. recording in south of France was like that. I mean, because of all the drugs and everything.
The junk was there to help me do the music. It gave me a space that I probably wouldn't have found otherwise. And I'd take anything if it helped me stay up long enough to finish this damn song.
You know, we would almost get to the point of recording a song. Keith would have to leave because he wanted another fix or whatever reason.
It's a nightmare. Instead of working on a song for 2 hours, you worked on it for 2 fucking weeks.
Right, we're going to see you on the... Yeah, I think it's ready. Yeah, sure.
It just becomes disorganized. You've got some recording engineers strung out on heroin, you know, because they all want to be strung out on heroin because they think it's the thing to do. Well, it isn't the thing to do for a recording engineer, I can assure you.
I thought it was quite amusing, a lot of it. People sort of, they hang around Keith and they think they're Keith. It's like, it's ridiculous.
But your band always thrives when there's
adversity. I don't know, probably by then, I mean, we felt very much like a sort of pirate nation to ourselves. And you dig in your heels and say, you know, we may go down, but we're not going down your way, you know. And so it kind of got, the bulldog comes out in you.
We always went to LA to finish our records. That was a sort of our modus operandi. So yeah, we went off to LA. It was just a bit too much work, considering that we'd had all these pressures, plus we were just a bit burned on it. I remember Keith even saying, I'm so burnt out on this record. But we still got loads and loads of unfinished songs. Some of them had fragmentary lyrics, and some had none at all. So we had a big mountain to climb.
Jagger later took the finished tapes to engineer and producer Glyn Johns to mix at Basing Street Studios in London. Engineer and producer Glyn Johns witnessed a dramatic change in the group's guitarist Mick Taylor. He turned from being a quiet, softly spoken, charming young man into a raving egomaniac junkie, Johns told Mojo in 2015. I was mixing the record and said to Mick Jagger, either he goes or I go. Johns describes working on a track at Basing Street Studios on which Taylor had overdubbed backing vocals, drums, and a bass. When Taylor asked the famously no-nonsense producer why he had removed them, he replied, "The Rolling Stones have a great drummer and a really great bass player. You, Sunshine, play the guitar, and you'll hear it rather nicely when I've finished this." It was then left to Jagger to ask the guitarist to leave the studio so Johns could continue mixing the track. Behind the breathtaking performances, Mick was battling a darker struggle, heroin addiction.
Mick Taylor said to me then, I'm thinking of leaving. And then, of course, he deteriorated because he started to get into drugs and all that sort of shit.
Though Taylor played a crucial role in shaping Exile on Main Street's sound, personal struggles with drug addiction during the recording sessions eventually led to his departure from the band. In the 2012 documentary Crossfire Hurricane, Taylor revealed he was addicted to heroin and left to protect himself and his family from the chaos of being in the Rolling Stones.
Where would you leave the Rolling Stones?
I don't know. Maybe I thought that I would be able to protect my family from not Keith's orbit, but drugs, because I slowly became addicted to heroin.
Yet, his legacy as one of rock's greatest guitarists is firmly intact, and his contributions to this iconic album continue to inspire both musicians and fans. Exile on Main Street simply wouldn't be the same without Mick Taylor's extraordinary talent. His playing is essential to the album's raw energy, emotional depth, and timeless appeal.
And actually, we signed a new recording deal with Atlantic Records for 5 or 6 albums. And so I never saw it as a lifetime thing. No, never. But I didn't really look that too far into the future. I just saw it as a great opportunity to make some money and have some fun.
During his 5 whirlwind years with the Stones, the band reached new heights of fame, producing some of their most legendary albums and touring non-stop.
Over the years, it's just acquired a kind of magical glow. Probably because of the way it was recorded, the rawness of it, the edginess of it.
We used to try and make one record every year, and we pretty much did. The first one was Let It Bleed, and then there was a live one, Get Your Yayas Out, and then there was Sticky Fingers, Exile on Main Street, Goat's Head Soup. There's about six or seven, major Stones albums that were done between 69 and 75, 76 while I was with them. We were playing in stadiums that were, full. You sort of glanced back over the amplifiers and you could see the limousines bouncing, because the energy in the stadium was electric.
However, the fast-paced lifestyle took its toll on Mick, who found himself increasingly caught in the web of drug use.
It wasn't always fun, though, I mean, towards the end of the period I was with them, for me, it was definitely not fun. The whole thing to me was becoming jaded and decadent, and they seem to have lost their direction.
Hedonism was very much on the rise. There was the hedonistic period. Any nature of restraint had been a bit pummeled. The idea of being restrained and disciplined was perhaps a kind of no-no.
The glamorous rock and roll scene often hides the deep struggles many of its stars face, and for Mick, the pressure to stay at the top, alongside the easy availability of drugs, created a dangerous combination. As his addiction deepened, so did the chaos of life on the road. Eventually, it became too much to bear.
Before the 1972 tour, there was a letter from the US State Department basically saying that if there was any kind of fallout, we could be in trouble.
There are a lot of people who are convinced that in some way you and your music are an evil influence. That must be a challenge that you would take seriously and want to reply to.
I don't take it seriously anymore. I think we've won,
Were there any rules on that tour?
Rules? No, there's no rules on any of them.
It's got its own film crew, it's got journalism, it's got its celebrities. It becomes more than just a tour, it becomes a grand event. And that also became the kind of fashion of tours. It's rather ill-disciplined, hedonistic binge around America.
Talk about Rolling Stones, I mean, it was an unstoppable momentum going on. And in a way, you were swept along with it. It's not as if you were particularly in control of it, or any of us.
There was not really any time for self-doubt. Or second-guessing. We were just going on instinct and doing what we wanted. We were almost like a law unto ourselves.
What is a Rolling Stone?
What is a Rolling Stone? Someone that's not settled, like a pirate, gypsy, someone who likes to travel, voyage, an adventurer.
It's not one or two. Yippee! Another concert. My mug's up. I don't want no indecent gestures, you understand? None of that wiggly stuff out there in front of me mum now. Okay, Mrs. Skeeves, this is for you.
Hi, Lou. You know who he is?
I do. You want to hear? He's one of those hippie long hairs, one of those hippie radicals.
I always thought he left because he got bored. I thought he was fed up with playing with us.
Like I said, towards the end of the period I was with them, I think I got, for whatever reason, disillusioned with it a little bit and a little bit bored. And being the sort of a very impulsive type of person I was and still am a little bit, I just thought, well, I don't want to do this anymore.
In 1974, Mick made the tough decision to leave the Rolling Stones.
It really wasn't a big deal to me, leaving the Stones.
I had no idea why he left the band. It was the stupidest idea I ever heard. And he never told me really the reason.
A lot of people think I'm crazy for leaving. People are constantly saying to me, why didn't you just stay where you were? You could have been a millionaire by now. I never really looked at it that way. Well, you don't when you're young and idealistic.
Mick Jagger was at Eric Clapton's birthday party when Mick Taylor leaned over and told him he was leaving the Rolling Stones. It was December 12th, 1974, and as Jagger, Taylor, and the other guests watched a fireworks display, a shocked Jagger turned to Ronnie Wood and asked, "Do you think he was serious?" Taylor was indeed serious. This decision had been a long time coming.
I was there at a party, sitting between Mick Taylor and Mick Jagger, when Taylor leaned across and he said to Jagger, "I'm leaving the band." And Mick went, "What?" He said, "Is he serious?" I said, "I think he is, Mick." So Mick Taylor said, "Yes, I am," and he got up and walked out.
When Mick Taylor announced his departure, Jagger said he was very, very disappointed by it. I think it really shocked the band.
I think after 5.5 years, I really had enough. I can't give you one overriding reason for leaving, except I can't really say it was totally down to being frustrated artistically. I didn't feel that I could grow anymore, either as a person or as a musician.
Aiming to break free from the toxic environment and focus on getting his life back on track.
There comes a point where you have to choose between one or the other, or you die. And I've survived.
While his departure was a huge loss for the band, it's essential to remember that Mick Taylor's legacy is far greater than his battles with addiction.
Within a few weeks, Jagger was saying, actually, Keith Richards is the sound of the Stones. Mick Taylor wasn't really a Stone at all. But, and in a way, at the time, we undervalued him, I think. But listening back, he contributed so much, and he saw the Stones through that period with his very elegant, virtuoso playing, which I think was crucial at that time when everyone was looking towards, progressive rock and rock being almost on a classical status.
To me, they peaked then, and I don't really think that they've done as many good albums or written as many good songs as they did, not only while I was with them, but prior to the period I joined them.
His extraordinary guitar playing helped shape the sound of one of the most iconic bands in history.
Mick Taylor leaving was the curveball, because that was a really good band, and it had this balance between Keith and Mick Taylor.
In a way, I was surprised, but it's always a drag. I spent years putting this lineup together, just as I'm getting it right. There's another part of me that seemed that it was somehow inevitable.
And his influence continues to resonate with both musicians and fans.
I know that I'm a good guitar player. People have said to me that they were
inspired to learn the guitar from some of my previous work with the Stones, which is, it's like very flattering when people say that.
Despite the challenges, Mick Taylor managed to reclaim his life and career.
Even though I've been around for a long time, I still feel like there's so much more to learn and so much more to do. I don't think you ever really stop learning and developing and expressing yourself, especially in any artistic endeavors, but especially in music. You just carry on developing what you're good at. You carry on playing and singing, and you hope that people will like what you do.
His musical gift remains as powerful as ever, and he continues to move audiences with his soulful guitar work.
Very comforting to hold a guitar. Even now, as I'm speaking to you, I mean, if I was holding a guitar, it would be, there's something there's something about it that just, it connects me to my soul in a way, my heart, whatever. It really does,
His story is a testament to resilience, showing that even in the darkest moments, there's always hope for a brighter path forward.
From the moment I picked up a guitar, I always knew that I would play the guitar. And that feeling got stronger and stronger the older I got, It's really like, I can't imagine not playing the guitar. It's impossible for me. It would be like losing a limb or losing an arm. I would feel like a cripple if I didn't play the guitar.